LATD Nation, what is good? Once again, we are back in the studio with another video. You already know the drill. I ain't even need to say all that shit. Today,
y'all know who he is, goddamn it.
Today, we are going to be doing something a little bit different. Discussion video, cinema. What's going on with film? Just a general conversation about film, the state of the industry, why I feel like Hollywood isn't coming out with as many unique and different visions as they were once upon a time in the 80s, the 90s. And what actually inspired this video, low-key, is actually a multitude of things. First and foremost, we saw Jurassic World Rebirth.
Yeah.
About almost a month ago now?
Yeah, about a month ago. A month or two.
And that right there lets you know it kind of came and went. We were supposed to review it, but we had got to a point where it's like, man.
Like, I mean, this ain't really that significant to review.
Not really. I mean, 10 years ago it would have been.
Yeah, 10 years ago, but it's 10 years now.
There you go.
But,
and also that in combination with, we had watched, Me Too turned Matt, we had watched Fight Club the other night.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole time I'm watching the movie, I'm like, man, where are movies like this nowadays? These kind of niche, sort of like cult, like sort of weird, sort of almost art house movies that sort of become, a fan favorite and sort of grow in reputation, kind of have like this cult-like status eventually. Where are these kinds of movies now? How come we're not seeing as many movies as back then, where they kind of were more unique, original, seemingly creative, seemingly took more risks? Why are we not seeing that currently?
Right. I 100% agree.
Because, and not to cut you off, to me, Jurassic World Rebirth kind of signified the fact that we've gotten to a point where we're doing reboots of reboots.
Right.
So that kind of lets you know that Hollywood, the state that it's in, low key, I don't even know what to say. But hey, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I feel like one of the biggest examples of this isn't just the Jurassic World or the Jurassic Park movies, the Jurassic movies in general. It's the Terminator movies. It's the would you say Avatar, the James Cameron?
I wouldn't say that an Avatar because Avatar came out in 2009.
Okay, all right, cool.
I would, it's not necessarily about when it came out. It's just kind of like, I think Avatar is different just because of the fact that it was planned as a story that would go for this many entries and would kind of explore as much as it has so far. So that's kind of different. And plus, that's not really a reboot or a remake of anything. That's his own creative idea.
Like, I feel like one of the last like original movies with the like an original concept and idea that was really creative though was Daveed Diggs and Raphael Casal Blind Spotting that came out in like 2018. Like, granted, it's not. I don't know if I would really consider it like a traditional hood movie because it doesn't have that same narration. Like, oh, you probably wonder how we got here. This is our story type shit. So and the thing is, the ideas that it expanded on in that movie and Blind Spotting was gentrification, ex-cons trying to adjust to the world again, like friendship, like how friends treat each other, like what makes a good friend, what makes a bad friend type shit, and just other things like that. But another big example for me, as well is as far as reboots after reboots and unoriginal ideas, is really a lot of the horror drama for me.
Yeah,
horror genre for me is because I feel like every other idea when it comes to those movies is like you have a secret killer right here. Who's the killer? Who done it? Type stuff. A demon possessed type movie, and then like an alien type movie. But I think those are kind of rare. I don't know the alien part, but the demon possessed movies, and then the who done it, who's the secret killer movie, like the Scream movies, which are great, by the way. I love the Scream movies.
The last two have been really good.
But a bad example of this is I Know What You Did Last Summer. Those movies,
that's thing that ties into this conversation. Yeah, actually. Another movie that we saw
and wanted to review.
We're talking about reviewing, but then we just kind of like.
So I'll put it like this: Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom, Rebirth, whatever you want to call it. It really wasn't that good. 5 out of 10. I Know What You Did Last Summer. 5.5 out of 10. It wasn't really that good neither. or I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. One of them. The one that came out last month.
Both these movies, because whereas Scream, the new Scream, like 5 and 6, they justified their existence by enriching the lore and enriching the overall story arc by not just having new characters that were compelling, but by also bringing back the old characters in a way that felt not like a natural progression. I Know What You Did Last Summer, the new one with Madeline Klein, is an antithesis of that idea.
Yeah, that's another reason why we saw the movie too.
But that, you know what? that's beyond that. That don't have nothing to do with nothing.
Right.
But anyway, you know, the thing about that movie is that it's the perfect example of why Hollywood is so criticized for having a lack of originality, because this movie doesn't really justify its existence. It doesn't really do much of anything for what came before, unlike the Scream recent legacy sequels, as it's been coined, that add new characters in, but also bring back the old characters and kind of drive the plot forward in new and unexpected ways. This movie and Jurassic World Rebirth, you know, and the thing is that Rebirth wasn't a bad movie. Like, I enjoyed it better than the last one, which is
definitely
not saying much, because Jurassic World, what was that, Dominion?
Was it Dominion?
Yeah, it was.
Okay, the one where they brought back all the
one that sucked worse than any of the ones that
it was pretty terrible. That movie was like a 3 out of 10, if that.
That was one of the worst movies I think I've ever seen.
Maybe a 2.5.
It was really, really bad.
But yeah, because I agree. I enjoyed Rebirth more than this one. It was still kind of formulaic to the idea of, well, what Jurassic World is and what Jurassic Park has always been. But it was still had a little bit more flair to it than the other one did. The other one was just hella cliche with the constant hand motion, like you stopping the dinosaurs, like using that like a superpower. And then next thing you know, there's like a little girl
that gets cloned.
Yeah, who's like, she's the clone of like, I think I'm wrong about this, and if you want to look it up or if y'all want to dispute me on it, please feel free. I don't care. But she's like the clone of the original owner of Jurassic Park mixed with like some type of dinosaur DNA or some shit. And I'm like, where's this going? It's trying to be like an MCU movie.
You see how you struggling to even remember the plot? That's how you know. You're struggling to remember and you're struggling to explain what it is. I can hear your voice. You're trying to even understand what the hell you're saying.
Like why is the clone girl in here, bro? This is not One Piece. But anyway.
Yeah, not for real. And I think that that's a perfect example of like, clearly they were kind of grasping at straws. They probably went into the studio when they said, damn, man, what can we have them do now? I mean, we had them go back to the island and open the park again, which was stupid. But at the same time, it worked because Jurassic World was a good movie. But it could have ended with that, because after that, it's like, damn, what can we do now? Oh, let's get the dinosaurs off the... Oh, wait, we did that. Oh, well, let's get them in a mansion. Which, to be fair, Indoraptor was actually pretty cool.
Right.
And Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom was actually pretty cool.
Indominus Rex was cool, too. I like the Indominus Rex.
Oh, we could bring back Alan and them again.
Oh. And then we can...
But this time, let's bring them back all together, though.
Yeah! We see how well that went. But no, like... I'm just saying, bro. Like, I feel like another example of there being a good original movie that came out this year, especially, was Sinners.
Yeah,
Sinners. Y'all know how I feel about Sinners, but I'll just say it again. I really did think it was a great movie. I love the originality of all the characters and the time period in the history that it's set in. You could say, oh, well, it's just a remake of what's the other vampire movie? Dawn of the Dead? Not Dawn of the Dead.
You can say it's influenced from Dusk Till Dawn.
From Dusk Till Dawn.
You can say it's influenced, but
Dawn of the Dead.
It still has its own original flair to it. And I think that brings me to another point. I think we're in an era now where Hollywood, and here's my thing. I don't think it's a case where there's a lack of originality. I just think a lot of the original ideas aren't making it to the surface.
Okay.
I think it's the sense of like, there's a lot of, because you know how many, like, you know what a spec script is?
No. Enlighten me.
Basically, it's a script in Hollywood that kind of gets floated around and doesn't really necessarily have anybody attached to star in it, doesn't have anybody attached in terms of a director. It's just kind of a script that kind of floats around, and then eventually it gets shot over to a studio, and sometimes they pick it up and they kind of want to create it and have it come to life. So there's a lot of original ideas that float around in Hollywood. It's thousands of spec scripts a year, but the problem is that we've gotten to a point to where they're more interested in investment returns and things like that than they are with creating actual real creative content. And I think that that's to do with the era we're in, where they just want to play everything safe and they want to bet on what they already know has worked before. And I think that Sinners is kind of an exception, just for the fact that Ryan Coogler, and we had this conversation the other day, I think Ryan Coogler is one of the last directors that got in time to where they're going to want to give him creative freedom, and they're going to want to give him the chance to execute his vision the way he wants, because he's already proven to be a capable director that brings in a lot of money with Creed, Black Panther. He's proven that he's somebody that people want to show up and invest money and time into,
right?
Especially if Michael B. Jordan is starring in one of his movies, which he usually is. So it's a case of where they like, he's a new name relative to somebody like a Scorsese or a Tarantino, but he's earned that kind of currency to where they're going to want to give him a chance, and they're going to want to allow him to do what he needs to do, because it's already proven to be a winning formula. Right.
I agree. I think the reason why Sinners, for me, yeah, I agree. It's an exception for sure. But you could argue that the plot line is so similar to From Dusk Till Dawn that it kind of falls under it not being original. And I think that's why I didn't really care for it as much as I wanted to, if that makes sense. Because I thought and if y'all seen the Sinners video, y'all know what I'm about to say. I thought the movie was still good, but the fact that it's so much like From Dusk Till Dawn kind of brought it down for me now that I think about it. Because I like the characters, Smoke, Stack, Sammy, his family, the message, the history, Cornbread, and all of them, and how they got the whole juke joint set up. And I like that plot line a whole lot more than I did the vampire plot line. And that's the reason why, because it's so much like From Dusk Till Dawn.
Okay.
I would have rather seen a movie about them themselves rather than the vampire plotline, because it really just kind of came out of nowhere for me. And then on top of that, we didn't even get any backstory on who Remick was, just like kind of bits and pieces and allusions to where he came from. Of course, Ireland, on the Rocky Road to Dublin type stuff. And that's where you could say that isn't very as original as it probably should have been. Now, I feel like if Ryan Coogler expands the universe on it, that's when we can get more original content. Because I would love to see a prequel about Smoke and Stack, personally.
Nah, for real. I would definitely love to see their time in Chicago, as alluded to in the beginning of the movie.
But what makes this movie so special too is the fact that it's not tied to anything, though.
That's when
I get that, and I get that too, and I respect it for that. And I love Ryan Coogler's movies. Don't get me wrong, but that's why I think that's the real reason why I didn't care much for, why I didn't love Sinners as much as I would have liked to. I still love it. It's 9 out of 10, 9.5 for me, personally.
I feel you.
Out of 10.
Yeah. I agree with that sentiment. I think Sinners is like, the reason why it's been so celebrated is because it feels like it's such a breath of fresh air in the era of
and it is
1,000 superhero movies.
It is.
1,000 reboots, 1,000 remakes. It just kind of stands out and has its own place in the landscape of what's going on. Mm-hmm. And again, I think superhero fatigue is a lot worse now than it was. I think people were having that conversation maybe like 5 years ago, but I feel like it wasn't quite where it's at now, because we still had the MCU in its prime. We still had, can't really count the DCU.
No, not really.
The MCU, people kind of like, for as many movies as they were so quality that people were just kind of like, we'll just kind of let it go. But I think now, because it's kind of declined in a lot of people's minds, it kind of is like raised the question of, are we tired of seeing superhero movies and not enough original ideas. Because the MCU, for as great as it is, it did play a role in kind of like this mindset of let's do a shared universe where every movie has to connect in some way, shape, or form, instead of just being its own standalone, original, unique thing. And I think that that's where a lot of the Hollywood investors' money is going to.
Right. Now
towards stuff like, look, what's the safe bet? What's something that we know is a guarantee we're going to make our money back?
And I think that's why shows like Invincible and The Boys, those two especially, work so well. But I would argue that they kind of add to the superhero fatigue to a degree because it's a superhero genre type of show.
In and of itself, yeah.
In and of itself. But with that being said, The Boys for me, and I feel like that's why a lot of TV shows nowadays are a whole lot more or a whole lot better than some movies are, because I think those have more creative freedom to be what they are. You know what I'm saying? Like Alex Cross, for example, that's also on another Prime Video. That's a great. I still got to finish watching it, but so far, it's a great show. It's another like action crime thriller. You know, if y'all know Alex Cross, he's like a police officer, a detective, and you know, he's catching bad guys. You know, simple premise, but I think that's why a lot of shows nowadays are, like I said, a lot better than a lot of movies. Because TV shows have been the most creative. Well, how can I put this? This is the most creative they've been since a while. But you could still even argue, because The Boys and Invincible really aren't independent concepts. They're based off comic books too.
Yeah.
Alex Cross is based off of like Tom Clancy.
Yeah.
Is it based off Tom Clancy stuff? So y'all already know. These aren't like original mediums, but they're still creative in their own way. Invincible is very much sticks more closely to the source material than The Boys does, because The Boys in the comics is 10 times more 10 times more graphic, 10 times more like more robust and more vulgar, and like it goes. If you think The Boys the TV show is bad, like the comics are way worse. Like they take racism, sexism, a whole bunch of other isms to the next freaking level.
Oh
yeah. But I think that's why The Boys is so great, because it has more to say than just superheroes aren't always good type stuff.
It takes the concept and it kind of spins it on its head, and I think that is why The Boys is such a breath of fresh air.
I'll even go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I was just saying that. Yeah, that's why I think that it works a lot more for some. It's almost anti-superhero.
Yeah,
but it
in
still
a way.
exists in the genre.
Right. Exactly. I think it tells more of a story. It gives more of a lesson of kind of like how Transformers 1 did. Like Transformers 1 is another example of well, no.
Even though it's its own continuity.
But I do like the story, how they flipped everything. But anyway, But The Boys has that same concept of don't look up to certain amounts of people. How celebrities can be just as bad as, well, or just as good. Well, they're human just like we are, and we shouldn't put these people on pedestals just for them to let us down. Like don't. What's the phrase? What's the saying? Don't meet your heroes. Yeah. In The Boys' case, literally. But I think that's why The Boys is so good, because it just takes the source material, flips it on its head. Another example of like where a lot of original movies are on Netflix too.
Streaming, yeah.
On streaming, because Netflix is
moving. Tyrone.
I was just about to say that too. They Clone Tyrone is a very deep and very original concept about, like, you know, stereotypes in the black community. Like, you got churches and how they're all ran by how the government kind of funnels in a bunch of our own stereotypes for us to kill ourselves with. Yeah. You know, you could arguably say with the Ronald Reagan and the crack epidemic back in 83. Excuse me. But yeah, they cloned Tyrone being about like this character name being about Fontaine and pretty much what I just mentioned, and how he's trying to figure out like why everything is the way it is. Every day is literally the same for, like, especially for some black folk out there. So that's another example of originality for originality's sake.
There you go. But I think it just brings me back to like the directors, like the legendary directors like the Scorseses and the Tarantinos, the Spielbergs of the world, where it's just kind of like they they have the freedom to do whatever they want because they've been established for so long, and a Hollywood exec is going to give them all the resources they need in order to make a movie because they're established veteran legends. So even if they're not making the most money, their film, they can still have their pick of the litter in terms of who they want to cast, what they want the story to be about, all kinds of stuff. And I feel like, unfortunately, a lot of directors that are trying to come up and establish themselves don't necessarily have the ability to do that because they're more worried about the analytics and the numbers and, oh, is this going to perform well, than letting the directors tell their own vision. So it's kind of a case of where things feel more generic than it should because the studio interference is there.
So what would you say? I got my movie already, but what movie would you say, a big blockbuster movie named by a high octane or high end actor or high end director? Which movie would you say is completely original, didn't remind you of anything, that came out in the past 10 years?
That came out in the past 10. Like, we've got that for sure, but I feel like especially like the last. Really since COVID, I think.
Really since COVID. Okay, let's go there. Since COVID. Since 2020.
COVID, I think since COVID. Outside of Sinners.
That didn't remind you of it. That was completely original. That didn't remind you. Okay, well, I guess every movie is going to remind you of another movie. So, yeah, Outside of Sinners.
But it felt like it had its own unique energy.
Boom. Thank you.
Honestly, that's come from like a new director?
No, from any director, really. But that's high end, you know?
I feel like that's made a splash and has really been able to like resonate with a lot of people. That's like from a director that isn't as established, that kind of came out of nowhere. Honestly, I can't even think of one, to be real with you. I might be blanking.
Very interesting. I agree too. That isn't a Netflix movie. Yeah, I agree.
Especially since COVID.
But one movie that does kind of that doesn't really resonate with people. I guess it depends on the person, but that's original, that really didn't remind me of anything, that's really like, that had its own unique flair to it, made by a high-end, like, you know where I'm going. And I'm making this face for a reason.
Enlighten me.
Drive-Away Dolls.
No, definitely not. That's not. I wasn't going. No, and you can't even say that because Drive-Away Dolls was directed by one half of a legendary.
That's what I'm saying by a high end director. Drive-Away Dolls felt the most original.
But see, for me, that's what I'm saying. It's only because of what he's put in that he's able to even have the ability to do that. And,
I get what you're saying now.
And so that's why I'm saying I feel like most new, like I'm talking about like a new director that's come up that isn't really battle tested, that doesn't really have that industry established sort of like feel yet.
So would you say Spike Lee has that?
Spike Lee's been had that.
Yeah, with him being a black director?
No, not even that. I'm just saying like in terms of like a new director that's come out within the last 10, 15 years.
Oh, okay. Well, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
That hasn't really established himself as like a legend or somebody who just has that ability to really just kind of do whatever they want without Hollywood execs breathing down their neck. There really isn't anybody like that right now.
Right.
They're not really giving them a chance to really showcase anything.
Right. That isn't a Netflix movie or a direct streaming movie.
Exactly. Because I mean, the biggest, most original thing that came out this year to most people, Sinners, Ryan Coogler's already been here for over a decade.
Right.
Michael B. Jordan's already been here for over a decade.
Right, yeah. You couldn't even say Stephen Cable Jr. Because he directed Creed too.
Exactly.
So it's like, you were exactly right with that though. I get exactly what you're saying.
And how does the problem get fixed?
By just go
director,
ahead.
I think independent directing, because now for as much as we want to criticize the internet, there's a lot of resources with the internet for people to get their name known in different ways. Chris Stuckman is a perfect example because Chris Stuckman came from being just a YouTube movie critic to being an established critic, and now he's got Hollywood connections, and now he's got this movie Shelby Oaks he's been talking about that kind of is his own vision to a degree. It's independently made, so he can make his name that way. That's a perfect example. Another example being, I can't remember their names exactly. How you pronounce their last name? The Raka twins. Okay. You know, remember the ones that did like the Ronald McDonald like videos back in the day?
Oh yeah,
like, fighting people on YouTube.
Yeah.
They came from that to now they did Talk to Me.
They did.
Yeah, that's them.
Oh, okay, that's what's up.
And then they just came out with a new movie. They just came out with that movie, man. That one I tried to get you, Bring Her Back.
Oh no, I ain't watching that. Like I couldn't even watch Talk to Me, bro. Like one thing. Well, y'all already know this about me and horror movies, man. We got a complicated relationship, you know. But yeah, no, I agree with what you're saying. I agree, but but with that being said, I feel like horror movies kind of do fall into that same little.
They have the monopoly on that.
Yeah. Like the same old. One of the horror movies that really, well, you could call it a horror movie, kinda, is that really shied away from that for me was What's the Jordan Peele movie?
Nope.
Nope is one of them. Us is another one.
Yeah, Nope, Us, and how are we forgetting?
Get Out.
I was about to say that's what really started the run.
Yeah, really, all of Jordan. And there's another one coming out called Him.
Yeah. Jordan Peele might be one of the few examples of somebody who's managed to do that as of late.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Him, Ryan Coogler, Donald Glover.
Yeah, because Jordan Peele when did Get Out come out?
2017.
Okay, so not exactly 10 years, but Jordan Peele is definitely another one that like where I can say his movies have always astounded me in different ways, and of course they would in different ways because they're different vibes for different people, you know.
Because I think he was again one of the last guys that got in right in time before there was kind of like this change in the industry sort of like mindset.
Other than him and Ryan Coogler, who else would you say?
I don't really know too many others, to be honest with you. Not right now. I would have to think about it. But from what I'm really thinking right now, not really many, to be honest with you.
Yeah. No, I agree, unfortunately.
But with that being said, maybe we have it all messed up. Maybe we're not looking deep enough. Maybe we're not paying attention.
Yeah, so if y'all have any movies that y'all want us to check out that are original by another director that's fairly new,
that's had some kind of cultural impact,
that isn't a horror movie.
There you go. That a blockbuster movie, you know, an original blockbuster
and
that people are really like, you know, tuning into. People are really kind of checking for.
Please let us know in the comments.
Let us know. We need something to watch.
Yeah, but you got anything else, man?
Not really, to be honest with you. I think this is an interesting conversation.
Yeah, no, we'll definitely continue more of these discussions though, for real. With that being said, I've been Jay.
This has been Rodney.
We're LATD. We got more videos coming. Make sure y'all remember to please look at the details. God bless.